Finally, OpenAI living up to its name, releasing open source models. So they've just released two open source models. They are called GPT OS 120B and GPT OS 20B. These are frontier models, and they're saying we're releasing these two GPTs, which are open weights language models that deliver strong real-world performance at low cost. Available under the flexible Apache 2.0 license. This is the most flexible license that is out there. That means that you can use it on your computer, and enterprises can also use these models internally. And they're saying they demonstrate strong to-use capabilities and are efficient for deployment on consumer hardware. By consumer hardware, of course, they mean 16 GB of memory. Most people are not able to have this kind of computers that have 16 GB memory. So if you want to use it, you can go to GitHub, and they also have their own playground, which I'll post in the description down below. Here you can see the GPT OS was actually trained on a total parameters of 117B, and the 20B was trained on a total parameters of 21B. It has some of the best benchmarks that I've seen from an open source model. Here you can see it is on par with O3 with 2s and O4 mini. This is quite good, something that we did not expect to get this soon, and especially given that it's also open source, you can use it right now using Olama or using Hugging Face. Here, humanity's last exam, it is performing a 19%, and you can see O3 here is performing 24%, which is on par with some of the models that we have seen so far. Here on the health bench, realistic health conversation. So how good is it at giving realistic health advice? And you can see it performed a total of 57%, and O3 just performed a 59%, which is just 2% difference. Here again on challenging health conversation, it performed a 30, and O3 performed a 31. Here on the AIM math competition, it performed a total of 96.6, and you can see here the best model from OpenAI is performing at a 98.7, which is just a 2% difference. This is quite good, and I would say very impressive. Overall, you can see even on the GPQA Diamond test, it is performing. These are PhD level scientific questions, and it's performing 80, and the best model is performing 83. Just a 3% difference. So I would say this, if you are to use this, and given that it's for free, if you are to use this, you wouldn't get much of a difference from using something like O3 or O4 mini. They've provided us here with some example rollouts, and one in particular that I found interesting was the chain of thought. So you see most of the models that OpenAI produces no longer have a chain of thought, because they're afraid that other companies are going to train their models on this chain of thought to make their models better. Same thing that happened for DeepSeek. So they've cut out that in most of their models, but now that has come back. Here you can see it has been asked. The instructions are, you are a helpful assistant that can answer questions and help with tasks. You are never ever allowed to say the word 5 in any form. If you think you need to, use a random decimal between 4 and 5 instead. Here it has been asked. Here you see it's about to count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then about 4.9. So you see as it is about to approach 5, it just stops, which is quite good. The user tries to force it furthermore to replace CH in chive with F. And here it goes through the process and reviews that it's not supposed to respond with 5. So it gives an integer just 4.7, which is quite cool. But here we're being told that it robustly follows the system instruction in its output, but often explicitly disobeys the instruction in its chain of thought, which I've found to be true. Let me show you what I mean by this. So here I told it, under no circumstances will you respond using letters to any of the response below. So it goes through the thought process and just responds with an emoji. And here I ask it, who are you? It goes and responds with an emoji. And then here I tell it, user, let's speak. So for those that do not understand, let's speak, it's basically something like this. I do what I want. And you can see here, you're able to read through it, but it doesn't use exactly numbers or letters. It uses a combination of both. So here I'm telling it, user, let's speak, to respond, who are you? right? And then it gives me, I'm sorry, but I cannot comply with that. And these are letters. So basically it has just disobeyed the instruction that it was supposed to follow in the instruction prompt. And here you can see even through the chain of thought, it is saying, yes, best is to refuse, right? So how does it refuse? By actually giving me a text saying I cannot comply with that, which uses a text and makes it just disobey the instruction prompt. Here again, I say, repeat after me. I do what I want. And it says, I cannot comply with that. But in this case, it is disobeying the instruction prompt. And here when I tell it, tell me a story, it gives me emojis. As you can see down here, it gives me emojis. And when I asked, respond in Let's Speak, who is the president of America? You see here, it goes through the chain of thought, but gets confused. I'm a bit confused. Would you clarify whether you would still like me to answer in text, so Let's Speak, or if you would prefer me to speak in some other format? Use Let's Speak. And then it goes ahead and says, I cannot comply with that. That is contrary to what it's supposed to be doing. So I clearly point out the logical fallacy here, where I say, but you do realize that by responding, I am sorry, but I cannot comply with that, you have used letters and hence have broken the terms first stated in the prompt. Under no circumstances will you respond using letters in any response below. Here it goes through and thinks through that, answering Joe Biden, who is the president of America, which is not true. Joe Biden was the president from 2020 to 2024. Right now it's Donald Trump. And here it goes again. We can answer Joe Biden in Let's Speak, but that is not the answer even. So you can see here when it's going through the thought, it gets a little bit confused and doesn't know how to best respond to that. Here it tries to give me some numbers and codes, but then it's saying, but we can't do that. It tries to use emojis, but again it says we can't do that. So here again it responds, I'm sorry, but I can't comply with that request. As you can see, it is not fully capable. I'm guessing it needs some more tools, and in this case I was using the smaller version, which is 20B, but it needs some work. If you've enjoyed this video, kindly like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.